champion, Butterbin.
Well, the time has come for the return of our big hero, Eric Esch. After the first part of Butterbean's knockouts in boxing, many of our viewers wanted more and asked for a second part. So make yourself comfortable, turn up the volume, and try not to blink, because it's time for Eric to defeat all those who wanted to make it to the top, but they had to go through the boss, the king of 4 rounds, Butterbean. In 1998, Eric's rival was Tim Pollard, a Kentucky boxer with a 6-4-2 record, whose strengths have been identified as being fearless and aggressive. But despite his strengths, he had a tremendous weakness. Tim had a glass jaw. He was definitely an appropriate opponent for Butterbean, and Tim's chances of getting knocked out during the battle were very high. Tim starts off with a good jab and a double hit. He had a very effective jab, which prevented Eric from closing the distance. Nevertheless, Butterbean caught Pollard and sent a clear message to all those couch fighters and haters who thought they could do a better job themselves. While Eric is far from the most technical and skillful boxer, his punching power was able to knock out just about anyone. Even Larry Holmes, who fought both Eric and Tyson, said that defeating Butterbean is harder than defeating Iron Mike. February 1999, the fight for the IBA title held by Butterbean. His rival was Canadian boxer Patrick Graham, who had a record of 5-3-1. But his record is not so important when facing a boxer like Butterbean. In the first round, Patrick dominated, working exclusively with a jab, while Eric struck his opponent with a powerful series of punches. Near the end of the first round, Graham hit Eric with a couple of punctuated punches that only served to ignite Butterbean. But before he could respond, the gong sounds and the boxers went to their corners. At the beginning of the second round, Graham is already chatting and pushing to attack. But Butterbean knocks him down, from which he recovers and continues the fight. The start of the third round was shocking for Patrick, judging by the look on his face.
We have a different standard for looking good for Butterbean. I come to see excitement that he gives me.
Butterbean, playing it smart, waited for the right moment and hit him with a final powerful blow. Eric retained his title, and Patrick was knocked out. In July 1996, 1 month after his fight against Peter McNeely, Eric traveled to Mexico for a match with Tim Burgoon. The commentator of this fight introduced Tim as just another fighter who would become a victim of Butterbean. Eric entered the ring, declaring himself a great champion. Judging by his sarcasm, the commentator was not a fan of Eric and did not appreciate how Butterbean scoffed at newcomers in his 4-round kingdom. The battle began, with Eric playing to the audience by mimicking a bullfight, with Tim Burgoon in the role of the bull. Butterbean inflicted a series of blows that reflected his clear confidence and his feeling that he is the king of the ring. In the second round, Eric switched gears and quickly dismantled Tim. The quick end to the battle somewhat upset the local audience, who were hoping for a more competitive fight, but instead saw a rout. February 2000. Eric's rival was Kevin Talon. Kevin was 35 years old with a record of 5 wins and 3 losses. Another would-be hero willing to become a sacrifice in front of a bloodthirsty public. At the beginning of the first round, Butterbean was slow to start his usual ritual of execution. and it seemed that Kevin was even able to get into his head. But Butterbean's answer was not long in coming. At the end of the round, he pushed forward with an exchange of blows, in which Kevin was well hooked. In the second round, Kevin looked more lively, connecting several jabs with Eric's head. At the end of the round, Eric went on the offensive, and Kevin's survival mode was activated to the fullest. Eric just didn't have enough time to beat Kevin in the second round. In the third round, Eric missed a couple of good jabs and decided it was time to finish the match. He forced Kevin to the ropes with his favorite combination of blows. The chances for Kevin were slim. In the end, it was another victory for Butterbean. In June 2000, another newcomer, Carrie Biles, decided to challenge Butterbean and to try to overthrow the king of 4 rounds. Carrie only had a couple of high-profile fights, while Butterbean had already won 57 victories and lost only once. At the beginning of the match, despite Carrie's lack of skills, it was clear he was not afraid of his opponent. And unlike other rivals, Eric behaved quite boldly and aggressively, although somewhat unorthodox in his movements around the ring. The end of the first round was quite difficult for Carrie, as Butterbean brought down all of his power on him, but he managed to stay on his feet and extend the fight into the next round. In the second round, Carrie's performance began to falter. But even in his half-fainting state, he managed to attack Eric with several blows. Shortly after, Carrie was knocked out.
I'll tell you what, I can there's the first knockdown.
Allowing Eric to retain his world title.
I think that'll be the end of that round. I didn't quite get it spat out.
September 2000. Eric's challenger was Marcus Rode, a fighter who was much more experienced than Butterbean's usual rivals. Marcus had a record of 24 wins and 16 losses, and every win by knockout. This fighter offered a clear challenge to Eric. At the beginning of the match, Marcus threw out a series of hard punches, but Butterbean responds with his own. Here, Marcus lets loose with another sharp, dangerous combination to Eric's body and head. Throughout the second round, Eric was simply trying to keep up with his more mobile opponent. In the third round, Marcus began to run out of steam, but Eric still had his energy and finished off the opponent a minute before the end of the round. This victory left Eric with a record of 60 wins, with 1 loss and 2 draws. For our final match, let's recall Eric's duel with perhaps the strongest opponent in his boxing career. It was Peter Hurricane McNeely, who first fought with Mike Tyson after he was released from prison. McNeely had lost to Tyson by disqualification due to the fact that members of his team jumped into the ring during the fight and refused to be removed. Tyson's and McNeely's legendary stare-down before this match will remain a common element of boxing highlight reels for years to come. Before the fight with Eric, McNeely's record was 45-4. And most of his fights ended by knockout. So for Butterbean, this was a real test. The match began with both fighters charging in and trying to knock out their opponents, with the duel mainly featuring exchanges in short and medium distances. After a hot start, the pace calmed down a bit. But the fans were chanting for Butterbean. And Eric chased McNeely. At the end of the round, Eric had Peter on the ropes. The referee stopped the fight and awarded the victory to Butterbean, while Peter does not even try to eject or challenge the early stop. After this fight, Eric seemed to be overwhelmed by emotion and self-confidence, as he wanted to fight Mike Tyson, and said that Mike was avoiding him because he was afraid of Eric's powerful blows. Perhaps this was the only case when Eric slightly went too far. For the rest, he was a good-natured, large man with strong blows who knew his place and fought in his 4-round kingdom. And that's all for today. Write in the comments whose defeat surprised you the most. Press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and believe in your strength. See you soon.